Hi, and welcome to Faith into Greatness. Thanks for joining me here today. Today I wanted to bring a little bit of a different type of word. I enjoy speaking about the scripture so much, but I also want to talk about life and how I am living my life and things I would have done differently when I was younger that I wish I would have known. So today I want to share some tips on different ways I would have lived my life in my 20s and my 30s that would have led me to a better place as I got older. But of course, all this that I've learned is super valuable. So I don't have any regrets for it. But I just want to share this with all of you with the hopes that it helps those people out there who are growing in their 20s and their 30s and how to live life and use the discernment in the scripture to ultimately find yourself in the greatest place of prosperity. One thing I did when I was younger was I was a little bit too concerned with everyone else and what they thought about me. I was too concerned with how stuff looked as opposed to how I was feeling in situations. Let me give you an example. When I was younger, it was so important to me to be around family. They were like the most important thing to me. And I enjoyed it so much so that oftentimes I would be around them, but I was never empowered or uplifted. Instead, I was treated as if I was nothing, right? And they treated me like whatever I had to say didn't matter. Like I didn't know what I was talking about. Like someone else's opinion or thoughts were more important, more valuable. Other people were more resourceful. Here I am, an attorney, and my family looked at me like I was an absolute nobody. I have jobs, I have clients, I'm a respected person, right? In the community, in my industry, at my jobs, in my work, amongst my colleagues. But amongst my family, I am not. And I am not the only one. It's really funny. I used to speak a lot to people who would share with me the same stuff. I knew people who also owned businesses who would share with me that their family had zero trust in them. And it was so funny. It was funny to us. We would share and we would chat about it. But one thing is I put too much value, right, on my family's opinion of me. When what I should have done, okay, and thanks to my father, much later on in life when I was in my mid-30s, he gave me a tip. He told me to stop worrying about everyone else around me and to focus on myself. He very simply told me that I care too much about other people, and I really needed to direct that focus onto myself and start caring for myself in that same way. I was taking the opinions of people who didn't necessarily value me or my presence and making it my identity. And in turn, I was treating myself that way. Like I was somebody who shouldn't be valued, who shouldn't value my presence, who shouldn't value what it was that I had to offer. And that shouldn't have ever been so. By God's grace and by God's will, God turned me away from constantly engaging with these people. It hurt my spirit beyond words. So I turned away eventually. And the healing that came from turning away from people who didn't value my presence was incredible. I started to feel better emotionally and mentally about myself and spiritually. The greatest gift I gave myself was turning away from people who never saw my value, who never appreciated my presence, and who could care less about me being around them or not. That was the greatest gift I gave myself. I didn't realize how much it was affecting me to be around people who didn't even want to be around me, who didn't appreciate me, and who could care less about me being around them. Now, is it always like that? No, of course that's changed. But Sometimes it's like you just got to take yourself out of the equation from being around people who don't respect you, who don't value you, and who don't appreciate you. I mean, why be around that anyway? I didn't know any better, okay? I thought I had to be because it's family. But no, you don't. You don't have to be. And very much so distance yourself from that. They'll come looking for you anyway. Take it from me. You can't hide. The second piece of advice I want to give, something I would have done differently when I was younger in my 20s and 30s, was I would have invested more in my personal health, okay? I would have taken better care of my body. I wouldn't have just been eating on the fly. I would have made myself more meals. Now, I did cook for myself, okay? When I was younger in my 30s, I did cook a lot of meals for myself. Even in my 20s, I lived on my own. But one thing I will say is that I ate a lot of stuff that wasn't healthy, and I didn't really invest on actually making true deep lifestyle changes. Now, I gotta be honest, my desire to eat healthier really only came after I turned my heart to God and asked for forgiveness, and then the Lord led me down a new road and a new journey. Before that, I truly didn't care very much. I didn't care very much about eating healthy. And I almost had gaslit myself into believing I was eating healthy enough. When about 20% of my diet, I would say, contained fresh fruits and vegetables, if that. It was probably even less than that. When I started to pay more attention to how I was eating, to how I was living, to exercising, I started to gain a lot more confidence in myself, in my personal abilities, in my strength, what I could accomplish, what I could do. It also felt like I had more control. Now, naturally, with a change of a diet, it didn't happen overnight. What I had written down had come to pass. About 12 years ago, I had written down that I want to eat fruits and vegetables. I want to learn how to live a better lifestyle. And what unfolded happened a little bit at a time, right? It wasn't right away. Because true lifestyle habits and changes happen a little over time. They're so incremental that sometimes it looks like there's no change at all. So one piece of advice I would give to anyone in their 20s and 30s, when I started to take care of my eating and working out, I saw the biggest change in my face and in my physique. I started to look much younger and healthier. I also had more energy. And the greatest relief was less joint pain, in my knees especially, where I suffered tremendously, okay, from being overweight my whole life, from my teenage years well into my 30s, okay? So that was a huge gift, and I wish I would have been set on the right path when I was much younger. There are certain habits and lifestyle things that maybe you didn't learn at an early age. Now, my mom, she loved to walk and exercise, so I did have an example. My father, he used to go to the gym all the time, but I didn't see him working out, right? That's why it's important, if you have children, to let them see you work out, exercise, so they have an example, a role model of somebody and what they're doing on a regular basis and how they should be living their life. Third piece of advice. I have 4 pieces of advice, okay? The third one, I would have started investing in my money into my 20s and 30s if I had the guidance, okay? I didn't have that guidance. Nobody taught me, take your money, put it in a savings account. This is why you want to do it. Do it like this. There was never any guidance, much like many people, right? I didn't understand the value of money because, to be honest, I didn't grow up missing much in life, okay? I was well provided for. My parents were well off. My father worked very hard as a mortgage broker. I don't miss those nights hearing about the rates and how the rates are too high. I don't miss hearing about the rates at all, ever. That's probably why I never became a mortgage broker. We had a good life. That's my point, okay? I didn't value money. I didn't understand the importance of it. So one piece of advice, again, I didn't really start to appreciate or value money until I turned my heart to God. Before that, God didn't give me the discernment to watch my spending. So I was spending on everything, buying clothes. I mean, look, your girl loves her clothes. I love my shoes. I love my dresses. I love everything that has to do with being a woman, okay? And I would spend. And just think, well, more's coming anyway. God's got me. Until God, like, one day put a lock on the door, was like, okay, I don't got you anymore. It's time to turn away from your what? Your wicked ways. What was I doing? I was living in sin, okay? What was the norm of society? Dating, doing things. I'm not going to get into it. So far removed from that anyway. I'm like a dinosaur now. Do you know what I'm saying? I had to turn away from my ways. And then God showed me, this is what you do with your money. You save a little bit. You make sure you always pay your debts and bills. Take care of your duties and responsibilities, right? Don't owe anybody money. Don't spend it if you don't have it. And God started to guide me, see? What I wish I would have known, my 20s and 30s would have made me a millionaire by the time I became a dinosaur. Okay? So, those of you in your 20s and 30s, pray, turn your hearts to the Lord and start living in obedience so you can have a prosperous life, all right? The last tip I want to give, love, dating, and relationships. I wasted so much time, and I say waste because in a part of my soul I was living in sin. When you live in sin, I feel like it's a waste of your time, okay? When we live in sin, we're wasting our time, we're wasting our life, we're wasting our efforts. We're not bearing fruits, okay? That's going to be fruits for the long run, for your life to serve God's purpose when we live in sin. You have nothing to show for a life of living in sin. Nothing. You're going to have nothing, okay? It'll be gone. You might have it today. It'll be gone tomorrow. It won't last long. So take my word for it. A lot of people judged me, right, for not having certain things by a certain age. But I was living in sin, and I'm sorry, but my parents are not multi-trillionaires or millionaires or billionaires, okay? I don't come from a family of wealth. It's not like that. So I have to work for what I have. But so many people judged me. Oh, she doesn't have this. She doesn't have a house. She doesn't have a car. She doesn't have this. I had to work to get a car. Okay, before I got married, I had a Lexus. I had to work to make money to pay for it. Don't just get things, okay? And everybody had something to say about my life, something to say about where I was. But I wasn't living a righteous life. And so God wasn't going to bless me, right, for the long run. I hope this word blesses you all. I would have not wasted my time, honestly, dating at all. I wouldn't have involved my body in the dating scene at all. I would have kept my parts to myself, okay? You can date without ever touching someone. You can go have dinners, you can have coffee, you can get to know people, okay? Without ever laying a finger on each other. Do it. I encourage you. But don't get your heart sucked in. Focus on the Lord. Keep redirecting your focus to God. I hope this word blesses you all. Take care and God bless.